Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to our next video in the viewer question and answer series. We are here with Jane down in Louisiana. And if you remember our video from Mississippi, Jody is my introduction to Jane because Jody's obsessed with, all things historical down in Louisiana in New Orleans area, which is where Jane is. Jane is a tour guide through cemeteries in Louisiana, New Orleans area. So you know all about that whole area. And you have, go ahead and plug, you have a short story that just came out actually.
Yes, first, bienvenue, welcome from New Orleans. My name is Jane Delacour. I am a historian and a tour guide. My degree is in early Middle Ages military history because who needs to be employed?
I love it. But you have the best stories, I bet. So.
It is great stories. And being a tour guide here in New Orleans, I get to talk about the history of the city. And pre-pandemic, I was doing a lot of tours inside our cemeteries, both St. Louis #1, but my personal favorite is St. Louis #2 because of the incredible architecture that's in St. Louis #2. It is the nation's highest cemetery with the most neoclassical above-ground cemetery icon funeral. Wow. So it's a very historic tomb. It's 3 blocks, and 1 block is almost exclusively, not by segregation, but by self-segregation, African-American, where Henriette DeLille is on her way to become the first African-American saint. And we're very excited to have her here in the city.
Wow. I didn't, all things I don't know. That's why I want to come visit you. But this pandemic's really keeping me from it, so.
Yes, it does. It's, even though these are not my personal family members in the cemeteries I go to, even though I have family in #1, they became family to me because I saw them every day. I got to tell their stories to people every day. You know, the incredible good and bad things that they accomplished here. And it does get really sad that you don't get to spread these stories and share our unique above ground cemeteries here.
Yeah, that is sad. It's a taphophile's dream coming and going to cemeteries like that. And the fact you get to do it every day, you have to get attached to some of these people in these stories, like you said, that you know them and now you miss them and you miss visiting them and seeing their grave.
There is a children's, it's called a society tomb, a orphanage for little boys that was set up during one of our cholera epidemics. And every time I would go there, I would leave a penny on the society tomb because the idea was if you leave a penny for the children, they can buy penny candy.
Oh. You're going to have to take rolls of pennies next time you come.
Right, I'm like, sorry kids, here, get caught up.
Well, go ahead and plug your,
Yes, I just released a book. It just came out on Amazon. It is called The Axe Woman of Bourbon Street. It is a short story about a real event that happened on Bourbon Street in 1949 between 2 burlesque dancers, Evangeline, the Oyster Girl, and Divina, the Aqua Tease.
So fun. I can't wait to see it. I'll put a link in it. You'll have to get me the link. I'll put it in the video.
I definitely will. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, go ahead with your first question for me. I could ask you questions all day long. We'll have to just do a video just interviewing Jane, but we'll let you ask me 3 questions today.
Well, my first question is, there is a large superstition here, especially in New Orleans, that you do not remove rocks or shells from cemeteries. Is that heard about anywhere else, or is that unique to us?
I've never heard it as a superstition, but more a etiquette that you just don't take things from cemeteries, whether it's, whatever, whether it's on somebody's headstone or not. I don't know that I've ever heard of it as a superstition. So what do they say happens there?
If you remove anything, particularly from St. Louis #1, you will be cursed with bad luck.
Oh.
And possibly even an early death, depending upon which guide tells the story.
I have never heard that. I'm wondering, no. Yeah. And you wonder if some of that, because Jody and I discuss this a lot, creating story or superstition or something to make a tour maybe more fascinating, that maybe somebody created that at one point and then it just kept getting picked up and passed on and picked up and passed on, and whether it actually was created out of tour drama or if it was actually out of historical info. And that was a big thing we talked about, was some of the things that are said. So I wonder how much basis is in historical within St. Louis or within the cemeteries, or that's interesting. No, I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's a large one that is spread far and wide, and particularly about St. Louis #1.
So do people like dust off their shoes even when they leave, or what do we?
I've not seen them get quite that particular about sand. Mostly it's like intentionally removing of rocks and oyster shells and the seashells that line the ground there.
Interesting. Don't send me any in the mail, okay?
My second question, obviously New Orleans and the surrounding area is noted for above ground interment. Do you think this style burial will eventually take off in America, especially with land management becoming a concern?
We have mausoleums all over. That's something that's done. And I think some of that is great for, like you said, space saving. I know when I was in England, that's not a big thing that they do over there. And I'm like, why would you not? So they were excited that they might be getting some of their first mausoleums because they are in such shortage of space. And I'm like, well, you should have been doing this 50 years ago, guys. It just seems logical. I don't know if it will become the norm, in terms of it being the only thing. However, columbariums where people are cremating and then going in cremation mausoleum, essentially type thing, is becoming more and more trendy as well, that people want a place to put cremated remains but don't want to take up the ground space. So they're using the columbariums and such. So I think it is a good way of usage of space while still creating a burial space for somebody. But I know that there are people that also have issues with burials and mausoleums and this whole leaking and, all the concerns that come up that people have. And so I think there's some people who are very uncomfortable with it, but every type of disposition has somebody that's uncomfortable with it. That's why it's great we have so many options. I don't want to be
right.
I don't want to be put in a tube of water. I don't want to be buried. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be, well, that's great. There's all these options. I mean, I don't want to die. That's just, a good option as well, I think. It should be.
And then kind of an off the chain one, but with people becoming a lot more natural and allowing death to be more open and discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that home wakes will become a thing again?
In certain areas, they are a thing, more progressive. I call it progressive, maybe, where like you get out to Washington and Oregon and, certain areas where natural burial is more of a thing. I think home wakes is more of a thing, keeping somebody at home or bringing them back home, burial on your own land or burial, like a natural burial. It's more of a thing. If you came to Michigan, it's not so much a thing, and people would be very concerned, even pushing the button on the retort for the crematory. There's so many people who are like, what? Why would anybody do that? But you get to certain areas of the country and it is very commonplace that why wouldn't you do that? So I think there's just there's certain areas and kind of like half couch and full couch. You're going to get to certain parts of the country where just certain things are the norm. And maybe somebody brings it back to their area after they've experienced it with a family member somewhere else, and then they do it, and then somebody else does it. But it also has to be a funeral director who's comfortable enough offering it and saying, yes, let's do this, and embracing it, where funeral directors are not always that way. They don't want to do something outside their own box, and they don't want to take the time to maybe learn how to do it well, or, you know, different, using cooling boards or dry ice or whatever may be needed to use in a situation. They may not want to put in some of the effort, and, you know, it gives us a bad name in those situations because we're not helpful and we're denying families, and we don't want to do, you know, it goes down that road of everything everybody says negative about us. But I think some of that is going to become more and more popular because it is so visible. Right. You can see it on, you know, social media and Instagrams and things that people are viewing those situations and want it more. But it's like, you know, finding that comfort level within a funeral home that's going to embrace that for you and with you to help you do it well. And not just say, your mom's going to get stinky and she's going to purge everywhere, so we shouldn't do this. Right. Yeah, I think it'll become more eventually. So, good. Yeah. I'm interested in your area. Is there any natural cemeteries like that? Because everything is so above ground. Do they allow?
Well, because of the nature of our above ground interment, it's a natural cremation. Yeah. So the year and a day, even it all comes from the European traditional contract, but in the early days, they found out a year and a day, they open the tombs back up and it's ash and just a few bits. You brush it back, throw the new person in, off you go.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Our last big funeral win was allowing the monks in Abbotsville to sell pine box coffins to the general public.
Which I love.
I'm eventually a burner, so what my future plans are is to have the plain box from the monks. I have friends, artists, crazy horse people, and it's going to be a box of Sharpies are going to be put out, and I want my friends to graffiti me to heaven. I will be very disappointed if there's not a lot of penises on my coffin.
Jane. Oh, Jane, that's subtle. Oh, that's good.
Hey, you only get one life. Make it count.
I imagine you have quite an eclectic group of like fascinating people.
I do.
Through your work and through community there. It has to be fascinating.
It really is. And one of my social media posts, I made a comment. I says, my gosh, I had a member of Marilyn Manson make a comment on my post. I had Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch make a comment on the same post. And a local famous person here made a comment. I says, this is now getting surreal.
That's amazing. That's Oliver from the Brady Bunch. Oh,
yes, Cousin Oliver. Robbie Riss, great person, great musician. We like to joke that he has a syndrome named after him that doesn't kill people. So he's doing okay.
That's amazing. My girls are obsessed with Brady Bunch, so they would think that was so.
Yes, Cousin Oliver, Robbie Riss is his name to give him a plug. He's a musician out in LA.
That's really cool. I had no idea whatever happened to him, so that's awesome.
Yeah, he does voiceover work. He was in Sharknado and all of that.
Sharknado. I forgot about that movie.
It's
amazing.
When I heard the pitch, I'm like, okay.
Sure, that's normal.
This is why I'm not in Hollywood.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sure there's a million fascinating stories you could tell us. Tell me.
I could keep us here all day.
I know. Tell me your favorite, if you could name one headstone that if I came down and I said, you may only take me to one mausoleum headstone marker, what would it be?
In St. Louis, number 2, in the first block. In the corner is a wonderful woman who has a beautiful marble tomb. Her name is Julie. And underneath Julia is the term, may her soul rest in peace. But soul is misspelled, S-O-L-E. So you just have to witness that because you don't think a misspelling would happen on a tombstone, but there you go.
You wonder if they got paid for that.
I'm not sure, but it has been a gift that has been giving for 150 years.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Yeah, I bet there's some amazing, fascinating. I can't wait to come down. So when I come.
You have Henriette DeLille, a future saint. She would be the first African-American saint here, and we're proud to have her here in New Orleans. And we also have Ernie K. Doe, the Emperor of the Universe, who is laid to rest here. So,
how do you get that title?
He gave it to himself, and no one took it away.
That is so fun.
He did the song Mother-in-Law back in the 50s. It was a one-hit wonder. He made a lot of money, came back home to New Orleans where he became a celebrity. And he had the Mother-in-Law Lounge, and he called himself the Emperor of the Universe. And we're all like, okay.
Why not?
Sure.
Why not? Nobody else has the title. Why not?
No one is saying no. So there you go, have it. And when he died, it was the largest second line funeral parade in New Orleans history. Over 10,000 people turned out for his funeral parade.
That's unbelievable. That's crazy.
Yeah. We know how to send you home.
I'll have to Google and look up and see if there's photos and stuff of that.
There's a lot of photos. It was a massive event.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for joining us today. We will definitely have to do another video and do some chat.
Well, definitely. I have tons of pictures from the cemetery, so we can pull something together and do a virtual tour.
A Taphophile's delight. That's what we want to do. Well, thanks, Jane. I appreciate it. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. And check us out next Sunday again for our next video going across the United States, one state at a time with a viewer from each state. So see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.